The Red Raiders are set to play at Jones AT&T Stadium for the first time in nearly a month, as they'll welcome in the Kansas Jayhawks for homecoming in the 100th anniversary celebration of Texas Tech football. In today's video, we'll preview the matchup for the number 9 Texas Tech Red Raiders, some players you need to know for the Kansas Jayhawks. I'll give my game prediction and the odds. Let's get to it. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Red and Black Report. Appreciate y'all tuning in to today's game preview video. And this is the biggest game in the Joey McGuire era. Not my words, according to the head man himself. And now, I think it can be true that this is the biggest game for Texas Tech in the Joey McGuire era, but the next one's the biggest too. And then the next one after that is the biggest, right? Because of the expectations that are mounting. We discussed that in a previous video here on the channel, but you know how I love to start these game preview videos. I want to hear from y'all. Let me know your score prediction for Kansas at number 9, Texas Tech. The Red Raiders are in the AP top 10 for the first time in over a decade. Let me know your score prediction, and we'll get to the odds here in a little bit to discuss, well, where I think they are with my game prediction as well. All right, let's look at some stats for this one. You see it on your screen. This is from the Big 12 website. We've got the number 1 offense in the Big 12 and your Texas Tech Red Raiders, averaging nearly 570 total yards per game. Kansas, honestly, not too bad with 434, but the Red Raiders have nearly 140 more yards per game on average. When it comes to defense, the Red Raiders, I mean, that BYU matchup here in a few weeks is going to be phenomenal from a defensive perspective. I digress, though. Texas Tech is the second best defense in terms of yards allowed per game in the Big 12. Kansas, they average, well, allowing teams 375. That is a big deal for the Red Raiders. The Texas Tech offense has been great so far, but let's be real, the defense is really what has stood out. Now, we look at the offense in terms of rushing in this matchup. Texas Tech and Kansas really not too far apart in terms of rankings, but a significant amount of yards per game in terms of difference. Texas Tech averaging 205 rushing yards per game, and they have 12 touchdowns on the ground, while Kansas is 8th in the Big 12, but over 25 yards per game difference in this one in terms of yards per game on the ground accumulated, 32 yards to be exact. When it comes to run defense, Texas Tech's the best in the Big 12, and it's not particularly close. You see it right there. The Red Raiders on average are allowing 65.6 yards per game on the ground. Kansas, they're averaging 157.7. I'm telling you right now, you're going to see another big game from the Red Raider tandem in the backfield in Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams. I expect the Red Raiders to get close to that 205 mark because let's face it, Kansas has not faced a rushing attack like the Red Raiders or really any kind of aerial attack like Texas Tech as well. We go on to the passing leaders in the Big 12. Texas Tech, the best passing attack in the Big 12. No surprise there, averaging nearly 365 yards per game through the air, 363.8 to be specific. Kansas, a serviceable average in terms of passing yards per game, 261.8. But when it comes down to it, Texas Tech defensively now is only allowing 178.8 through the air, while Kansas is allowing over 215, 218.2 to be exact. Texas Tech should be able to have a field day and really be able to open things up vertically in the passing game. And now, we'll talk about some guys here in a second, how Kansas could potentially do that as well. But really the standout to me is this, and we talked about it last week in the preview video for Houston. I think the aspect of this game I'm watching for most is, again, can that Texas Tech offensive line set the tone in the run game? They did it beautifully against Houston down in H-Town, just absolutely thoroughly outclassing that Houston defensive line, did the Texas Tech offensive line. They did whatever they wanted to, and they did it whenever they wanted to as well. I expect a lot of the same here against Kansas. I will say Kansas has some playmakers on the defensive side of the football, and we'll talk about them here in just a second, but I am looking for Jacoby Williams and Cam Dickey to have 2 massive games on the ground, and they'll be involved in the passing game as well. Will those duo, in terms of the duo of running backs for Texas Tech, I'm very excited to see. And I think I called a Jacoby Williams game last week against Houston. That worked out pretty well. I think this is a big Cam Dickey game on the ground. I think Texas Tech is going to be able to really dictate where they want to run, and I think they're going to be able to run between the tackles, something that they didn't do a ton last week against Houston. They had some success, but they really had a lot more success in terms of running the football and going outside the tackles in the zone scheme. Now, let's go ahead and look at Kansas and some of the players that stand out for them, and they have maybe one of the well, I'm not even going to say one of. They have the best dual threat quarterback in the Big 12, full stop. Jalen Daniels is a bona fide star in college football, and he should be. He's damn near 24 years old, but age regardless, he hoops. He is really, really good. He's got 16 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, nearly 1,500 yards passing, but he's also the second leading rusher for the Jayhawks. And for those that don't know, college football is not like the NFL, right? Sacks count against that. So if you take his sack yardage away, or add it on, I should say, to his rushing, he's got 280 yards rushing at the quarterback position. He's really good, okay? And he's a guy that likes to extend plays and get outside the pocket. It's going to be pivotal for the Texas Tech defensive line, which is the best unit arguably in the country, to contain Jalen Daniels and force him to be a passer. Now, he has improved at passing the football. There's no denying that, but he is still a better athlete when it comes to getting outside, out-script in terms of those off-script plays outside of the pocket, and really extending and maybe picking up a third down or two that extend drives, inevitably ending up in Jayhawks points. That's going to be something that Texas Tech is going to have to really, really stay really in their rush lanes and make sure that they don't overcommit and get pushed too far back, where Jalen can step up into the pocket, find that hole in terms of the gap in the offensive line, and take off running. Now, speaking of running, LaShawn Williams is the leading rusher. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. A lot of that did come on one rush, 62 yards, but he is a big-bodied running back that they use in the red zone. He's got 5 TDs on the year. Now, the guy that really stands out to me, and you can see it in the stats as well, is Emmanuel Henderson Jr. He is a transfer from the SEC, Alabama to be exact, and he is arguably the fastest wide receiver in the Big 12 and maybe the country. Okay, he is a bona fide track star out there, and I really only need to show you one play where he had a 93-yard touchdown reception from Jalen Daniels early on in the season. But he is a guy that Jalen Daniels trusts, not only from the deep aspect of it, but also in the intermediate. He leads them in terms of receptions. I mean, shoot, you can add Gorin and Pickett together in terms of there's receptions, and they only have 2 more than Emmanuel Henderson Jr. has by himself. He is a guy that Texas Tech is going to have to take seriously. I would not be surprised if they bracket cover him in terms of using either Brendan Jordan or Cole Wisniewski, regardless of what side of the field it is, in terms of Emmanuel Henderson Jr. is on to help with the corner so they don't get beat deep. He is a guy that can take the top off the defense with the best of them in the country. He is the guy to monitor for the Jayhawks when it comes to the receiving game. Moving on down to the defensive side, you've got Trey Lathan. He is their leading tackler, and he is a bona fide star at the linebacker position. If you like linebackers in this game, you're in for a good one, because you got the best linebacker in the country in Jacob Rodriguez wearing the scarlet and black, and Trey Lathan, he's pretty damn good himself, okay? 46 total tackles this year. He's got a sack and a half, got an interception. He's not afraid to go in and peanut Tillman, you know, in terms of forcing fumbles as well. He's got a couple of pass breakups as well. He is a guy to monitor when it comes to this Jayhawks defense, and a guy that I really, truly think is one of the better linebackers in all of college football. It just, for Lathan, I mean, you ain't going to be the best linebacker in this game, just from the standpoint of Jacob Rodriguez is on the opposing sideline. Now, before we get into the odds, I did want to look at the latest Big 12 standings. You can see them on your screen right there. BYU up there at the top, mostly because, again, I don't understand how ESPN does this, if I'm being fully transparent. Texas Tech has the most points scored in the Big 12. They have the least allowed. That being said, they did have a bye, so you've got that. But anyway, Texas Tech right up there with 4 other teams, BYU, obviously themselves, Arizona State, and Cincinnati, in terms of the few remaining unbeatens in conference play, with only 2 remaining unbeatens for the totality of the season. in the Big 12 in BYU and Texas Tech. The Red Raiders will face off against Arizona State next week after this Kansas game, not looking ahead, and then they will face off against BYU in early November out in the 806. All right, let's go ahead and look at the latest odds in this one because it was really interesting where this opened up, and it's back to where it opened. It says 14 right there. This opened at 14.5 over on FanDuel, and that's exactly where it is right now. Vegas expects a pretty high-scoring game. 59.5 between these two teams. Two really good offenses, no doubt about that. I'm surprised the total is so high just from the standpoint of where Texas Tech is at, right? So you got 59.5 there. Texas Tech is 14.5-point favorites headed into this 100th anniversary game for Texas Tech football in homecoming, and they're going to be rocking those absolutely spectacular 100th anniversary jerseys out under the lights in the 806. Now, Joey McGuire has said he needs the students to be loud, but obviously stay within the rules. Throw those tortillas at the opening kickoff. After that, you're done, but stay loud and proud when that Texas Tech defense is on the field and create havoc for a team in Kansas that loves to use motion. That's something I'm looking for in this game. How much motion does Kansas use? You've got some pre-snap penalties for Texas Tech, most notably on the offensive line, but do those unfortunately carry over to the defensive side with how much motion Kansas likes to use? I'm interested to see what Coach Leipold uses from that standpoint and if they maybe shrink the motion down in terms of, okay, we're on the road. It's going to be loud here. Let's not try and do too much. Let's keep it simple for Jalen Daniels against this touted and highly touted Texas Tech defense that stars David Bailey, Lee Hunter, Skylar Gill-Howard, Romello Height, Jacob Rodriguez. The list goes on and on, right? So that's what I'm watching for most. Offensively, I think Texas Tech is going to do a good job on the ground in this one. I think it's going to be a big Cam Dickey game with some explosive plays on the outside for Baron Morton with Caleb Payday Douglas. I think Reggie Virgil catches a deep touchdown in this game. I'm going to call my shot now, and deep touchdown to me is an explosive play. I know traditionally that's 20 yards. I'm going to increase that to 30. I think Reggie Virgil has a north of 30-yard TD catch in this game, and I think Terrence Carter Jr. has a big game as well. But on the defensive side, you're going to have to contain Jalen Daniels within the pocket. You got to get pressure, but you can't do what you did against Houston last week, where you got too far upfield when you were rushing the passer on some really, I thought it was bad reps, but it ended up working out for you because Connor Wegman just held on to the football too long, right? You can't do that against Jalen Daniels. You got to keep lane integrity when it comes to rushing the passer against a guy like him. Again, he is the best dual threat quarterback this league has to offer. You have to make him a passer. And if you do, I think you absolutely beat the brakes off of Kansas. I truly believe that. But if you allow him to have 4 or 5 off-scripted plays where he gets a third down or 2 in terms of extending drives, I think Kansas is going to capitalize here. That being said, I truly believe Texas Tech is the class of the Big 12. I think they are going to show out. There is no such thing in terms of, I don't think Joey McGuire is going to let the Red Raiders in 2025 have a letdown game at home like you have seen in years past. This team is very different. It's much more talented, and I think they are much more focused, right? You think about games in the past where they just get obliterated by Kansas State in a game where they should probably be closer, right? Baylor obliterates them. You had no business losing to Baylor last year in the fashion that you did, right? I think some people view this Kansas game as that type of game for Texas Tech. I do not. I think you are clearly the class of the Big 12, and I think you proved that in prime time under the lights at Jones AT&T, where you have not played in basically a month, okay? I think this crowd is going to be ruckus. I think you're going to absolutely beat the brakes off the Kansas Jayhawks, and I think you score quite a bit, okay? I think you left a lot of points on the table against Houston. I don't think you do that against Kansas. Called me off base here. I think Texas Tech wins this football game 41-20. I think they blow the brakes off of the Jayhawks. They contain Jalen Daniels. I trust this defensive line quite a bit, but I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down on the pinned comment below your score prediction for Kansas at number 9, Texas Tech. Again, mine, 41-20. Texas Tech beats the Jayhawks to improve to 6-0 and potentially head into a matchup against undefeated teams in the Big 12 anyway next weekend out in Tempe against the Arizona State Sun Devils. All right, That's going to do it for today's game preview video. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't noticed. Hey, we've got the level the bevel on there. That's that. I love it, Tech. I love it. All these people online saying, oh, they went backwards. No, you just don't have any sense of Texas Tech history, and that's okay. I don't have history on some of these other schools. Your just opinion doesn't mean anything to me when you try and act like you know something, right? They did a phenomenal job with the rebrand. These logos are absolutely chef's kiss, and I know a majority of y'all agree as well. But be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button if you want 100% free Texas Tech content all year long, whether it's on the gridiron, the hardwood, the portal, or high school recruiting, or anything in between. We've got you covered right here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube in the Red and Black Report. All right, I'm RC Maxfield, reminding you, as always, stay safe and Wreck 'em Tech.